Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 2 with a scientific paper presentation from the Undiksa Singaraja Paramenta journal entitled The Effect of Teaching Techniques and Types of Personality on English Listening Skills. This study aims to determine the effect of learning techniques and personality types on English listening skills. This research is an experimental research with factorial design implemented at elementary school lab Undiksa Singaraja. Students that involved in the study, as many as 88 people, who were determined randomly through multi-stage random sampling technique. And in this research shows that first, no significant difference in the English skills between students using games for learning and students using songs for learning. The second one is English listening skills of students with extroverted personality are better than those with controversial personalities. The third one is there are interactions effect between learning technique and personality type to listening skills in English. The fourth, listening English skill for extroversion students who are learning by playing is lower than who learning by songs. And the fifth, listening skills in English students with controversial personalities who learn by game learning techniques higher than those who learn with song learning techniques. Listening skill has a very important role in the second language development. Through listening, learners not only learn various language aspects, such as sound system, word, sentences, syntax, and pronunciation, but also gain a foundation to develop further language skills like speaking or oral communication. Therefore, students must be given as optimum exercise as possible. There are two kinds of listening, intensive and extensive listening. Intensive listening occurs when learners listen specifically to train their listening skill and the way how English is uttered. Intensive listening generally occurs in the classroom or in the language laboratory, and it is made to happen with the presence of the leader of the teacher in guiding learners in the learning process. Meanwhile, extensive listening refers to listening which is usually done by learners outside the classroom. It normally aims for enjoyment or other reasons. There are two learning techniques that discussed in this journal. The first one is a technique of teaching using games. Games are excellent teaching techniques to teach the integration of various language aspects which are able to increase learners' motivation to learn. Another, be- Another benefit of games is that learners are able to acquire the language indirectly since their attention is a focus on the message rather than the language itself. The second one is the technique of teaching using songs. Song, Songs add a whole dimension to children's classes and make it easier for the children to remember words and patterns and natural chunks of language. Songs can add feeling and rhythm to language practice that might otherwise be flat, help children remember this more easily, and draw children more
Next
deeply
point
into a
is
lesson.
types of personality. Extroversion and introversion are two individual factors which are parts of the personality. Extroversion refers to an outgoing, candid, and accommodating nature that adapts easily to a given situation. quickly form attachment and setting aside any possible misgiving. Owen ventures forth with careless confidence into an unknown situations. And then introversion, in contrast, signifies a hesitant, reflective, retiring nature that keeps itself to itself. Shrink from objects, is always slightly on the defensive and prefers to hide behind the mistrustful scrutiny. Therefore, from all the above theories, it can be synthesized that extrovert and introvert personalities could be seen from our major characteristics, which are in contradictory. And then extrovert personality is more communicable, open, frank, adventurous, and sociable. On the other hand, introvert personality is more silent or solitary, secretive, cautious, and reclusive. As you can see on the table in the article, that the research findings comprise data description, normality and homogeneity testing, inferential statistic analysis, hypothesis testing and discussion, and limitation of research. And then in data description covers the explanation of the scores gained by the students in their listening skill test. There are 8 classifications of data. Namely, number 1, the listening skill scores of the students being taught using the game technique. And then number 2, the listening skill scores of the students being taught using the game technique. And the next number, the listening skill scores of the extrovert student. And the number 4, the listening skill scores of the introvert students. And then number 5, the listening skill scores of the extrovert students being taught using the game technique. And then number 6, the listening skill scores of the introvert students being taught using the game technique. And then number 7, the listening skill scores of the extrovert student being taught using the song technique. And the last number, the listening skill scores of the introvert students being taught using the song technique. You can see the results of the research by yourself inside the article.
From the previous explanation, it can be concluded that there are 5 hypotheses that have been analyzed. Namely, 1. There is no significant difference in English listening skill between students who learn to use game technique and students who learn to use song technique. This proves that games are as good as songs that are applied to teach listening skills to elementary school students. This finding can be understood as an atmosphere of a pleasant learning process, so that the two groups treat differently can exhibit good listening skills which are not significantly different. 2. There is a very significant difference in English listening skill between extrovert and introvert students. This proves that personality type influences the success of second language learning. In this study, students with extrovert personality acquire better listening skill than students with introvert personality. 3. There is a very significant interaction effect between teaching technique and personality type on listening skill. On the one hand, extrovert students gain better listening skill taught using song technique than game technique. On the other hand, introvert students gain better listening skill taught using game technique rather than song technique. 4.
There is a significant difference in listening skill between students who have extrovert personalities who learn to use game technique and students from the same group who learn to use song technique. Extrovert students who learned to use game technique and students from the same group who learned to use game technique X5 lower listening skill than extrovert students who learned to use song technique instead of game technique. And the last, number 5, there is a significant difference between students with introvert personalities who are taught with game technique and students from the same group are taught with song technique. Introvert students who learned to use game X5 higher listening skill than students from the same group who learned to use songs. Therefore, it can be said that introvert students have more suitable to the talk using game technique than song technique. A few presentation from our group. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.